Hello everybody, Melon FPS here again. Welcome back to another video. Today we are covering the patch notes for the upcoming Gundam Evolution Season 2 Mobius. They went ahead and released the patch notes a little early, so we kind of got a glimpse of what's coming. Now, I don't know if there's going to be any additional changes on the day of the patch, but this is all we have in terms of unit changes for now. If there is anything that'll change, I'll be sure to post the updated logs down in the comments down below. But for now, this is the information we have, and there's some crazy changes in these patches. There's some really crazy stuff. So let's get right into it. So first off, we obviously have the Nu Gundam, pun intended, and the new map colony trading post. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the new unit and the new map right now, as I haven't played it yet. When it actually launches on November 30th, I will make another video going over the new unit and how it's going to be changing. I will say, just based off of what I've seen of the unit's abilities, it looks really interesting. I'm not sure how well it's going to fit into the current meta, or the shifting meta, I should say, but it'll be interesting regardless. But be sure to get subs so you don't miss a review on that unit coming up soon. But we're just going to kind of skip over this for now. I'll put the stuff on the screen so you guys can read the abilities, but aside from that, we'll cover that in a little later. Alrighty, starting off the unit changes, we'll be getting started with Pale Rider. Now, Pale Rider is finally getting her hit with the nerf hammer this patch, very deservedly so. Pale is getting two big changes, the first of which being the nerf to the primary fire machine gun. The damage is dropping from 60 to 58 per pellet, which isn't too big of a nerf. The biggest change, though, is going to be to the repair pod ability. Now, as all of you well know, this repair pod is insanely strong. What's happening is that the healing per second is being reduced from 200 to 120, and the cooldown is getting an extra 2 seconds, bringing it up to 14 to 16. Now, again, as all of you well know, Pale Rider has been the meta DPS for basically since the game came out. Even in the beta, he was very strong. And now with this nerf combined with the nerf on October 28th addressing the G maneuver, I feel like Pale Rider is finally brought down to the rest of the DPS in the game, but we'll have to see how it plays out. I still feel like Pale will be pretty strong, but I don't think he'll be nearly as oppressive as he's been in the past. Next up, we have Zeku II range. Now, Zeku II range is getting just some tiny little adjustments. The primary machine gun fire is actually getting a damage buff of 46 to 48 per pellet, but the damage is being reduced from 30 to 28. The G maneuver is also getting slightly adjusted, where the required points to activate the G maneuver is increasing from 6,500 to 6,800. Now, Zeku II range has been kind of in a weird spot ever since the game came out, because it doesn't have the same kill ability as like Exia or Pale Rider and that kind of stuff. So it's been this like weird mid-tier character. Now, this said though, with Pale getting nerfed so heavily and Exia being adjusted, now you may see Zeku II become more of a mainstay with these changes. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I personally would love to see Zeku II actually become more of a mainstay in comp, but we'll have to see what happens. But these are some interesting changes. It'll be interesting to see what happens with them for sure. Alrighty, next up we have Gundam Barbatos. So everyone's favorite melee Gundam is getting some pretty big buffs this patch. Firstly, Barbatos' HP is getting increased from 1,000 to 1,010. Not a huge increase, but just enough to give him a little more survivability. Barb's longsword ability is also getting some big adjustments. The damage has been lowered from 800 to 400, but the front-facing range has been extended. The cooldown has been reduced from 8 to 7 seconds, and most importantly, the weird delay after longsword's ability use has been shortened, which means that when you do the down, like the sword spike as Barbatos, you won't be stuck just sitting there anymore, which is nice. So this will give Barbatos a lot more escapability out of bad situations. So if you whiff, you're good. You can get out most of the time now. The biggest change to Barbatos, though, is the G maneuver. So what's happening is the threshold for activation has been dropped down from 7,000 points to 6,200 points. The on-stop hit after Barbatos hits a unit has been lowered from 0.08 to 0.05, meaning you can dash between hits a lot faster. And then the biggest crazy change is that enemies that are reduced to 0 HP by Barbatos' G maneuver are no longer disabled, they are instantly destroyed, which is just ludicrous how good this is going to be in game. These changes will 100% bring Barbatos back into the meta. I feel like this is going to go back to kind of the beta Barbatos that was just destroying everybody. Now, yes, his combo kill potential has been reduced a little bit, but I would heavily expect to see Barbatos be like a mainstay in Season 2 metas, because the G maneuver is just so strong now, and combined with like a Methuss ult, my god, that's going to be one of the most craziest things in the game. So definitely get ready for a lot more Barbatos in Season 2. Alrighty, Sazabi is also getting some adjustments in the Season 2 patch, the Nemesis to Nu Gundam, ironically enough. What's happening is the primary fire on the beam rifle is getting, the bullet spread is getting reduced back down a little bit, so it's going from 4 to 3.3. After the nerfs Sazabi received on October 28th, is with the character felt a little too gutted, and now with the prevalence of a lot of melee characters really coming into the meta, Barbatos especially, having Sazabi be able to do a little more consistent damage at close to medium range, it's going to be very helpful. So this looks interesting on paper. We'll have to see how it turns out in game, but a nice overall quality of life change for Sazabi. Keeping up with the theme of long overdue nerfs, Methuss is finally receiving the long overdue nerf to the energy cable G maneuver. Now this was kind of similar to Pale Rider, and this is part of the reason why Pale Rider was so strong, where Pale Rider and Methuss could both get their ults so quickly, and they could combo them together with Hades and energy cable, and it was just such a strong combo. So while yes, Pale Rider got his nerf in October 28th and reduced the frequency of the G maneuver, Methuss was unchanged. Methuss is now getting that change that was supposed to happen then. So Methuss's G maneuver, the energy cable, the activation points required to use it is going all the way up from 7,800 all the way to 9,200. And while I am very sad that my main is getting nerfed, this is 100% a good change because it was just way too easy to use. And now with lowering the increasing the activation, I should say, it kind of brings it in line with a lot of the other ultimates in the game, which is a very good change overall. Happy to see this. I am sad my main's getting nerfed, but overall for the health of the game, it's a good change. Alrighty, and Dom Trooper, the most slept on character in the game, is also getting a small little nerf this patch as well. The armor gun utility is getting a cooldown adjustment from 10 to 13 seconds. Again, this is another long awaited nerf with Dom being such a strong character, especially in high elos. The ability to heal a friendly unit with an armor gun every 10 seconds was kinda strong, especially if you comboed it with Exia, where Exia would dash in the air, get healed. It is a very strong combo. It's not too much of a nerf, it's not enough to gut the character, but it's a very understandable change. Again, more of a kind of a quality of life for the overall game change. Again, long overdue. Happy to see it. We'll see how it actually affects the game when everything comes out. Alright, and I now want to Turn A. Turn A is also getting hit with the nerfs this patch as well. The overhead throw ability is getting a nerf to the time it takes the grab to occur. The actual change is going from 0.42 to 0.5 seconds. According to the patch notes, the reasoning for this change is because the grab was difficult to avoid at close range, which doesn't really make sense because that's the entire point of the ability. I guess they want to add maybe some kind of counterplay, giving people maybe enough time to dash out. I'm not sure if this is honestly going to make a big difference. My assumption is they're trying to nerf the dash grab tech on Turn A, but I don't think this is enough of a change to actually change it. We'll have to see how it plays out in game, but this one is kind of a head scratcher for me, but again, we'll have to see how this actually affects the character in game. Next up we have Guntank. Guntank is getting a surprising buff, kind of slash quote-unquote nerf this patch. The primary fire multi-lock is getting a damage buff from 18 to 21 per pellet, but in doing so they're also adjusting the multi-lock damage to disabled units, which is they're reducing that from 30 to 21. I'm not quite sure why they did that change. I guess maybe just to prevent Guntank from burning down disabled units too quickly. I guess they just kind of wanted to equalize it together. Overall, this is a nice quality of life buff for Guntank. Guntank was kind of stuck in the middle tier, and this will be a nice little push. I'm not sure if it's going to bring Guntank to like a meta character, but it's a nice quality of life for sure. I think the Guntank mains will definitely be appreciative of this change. And yes, it wouldn't be a Gundam Evolution patch without changes to Exia. Now, with Exia being such an insanely strong unit who has already received several nerfs on October 28th, there are going to be some changes coming to this character again in Season 2. Firstly, the GN Beam Saber ability is getting a buff where the hit stop after the ability connects with the enemy is being reduced from 0.08 seconds to 0.05. The ability's cooldown is being nerfed, however, it's going from 3 to 4 seconds. And then in addition to that, the Quick Step ability is getting a cooldown nerf from 9 to 12 seconds. Similar to kind of how last patch where they were kind of targeting Exia's escapability, this is kind of the same thing again because they want to prevent Exia from being able to dive in and out so freely. Interesting changes. I don't think this is going to be enough to really gut the character. I think this kind of pulls it down to the same area of Pale Rider where like they're nerfed but they're still pretty strong. Again, another situation we'll have to see how it plays out in game, but these are some interesting changes for sure. Alrighty, and this one I don't actually know what this does. Maybe the Marasai mains in the watching this video can tell me what this does. Basically, Marasai is getting a small buff to the Fendeline rifle, the short-range attack you do with the pole combo. What they've done is, according to the patch notes, they've shortened the post-motion delay when a sidestep cancel isn't used after the beam blade is used. Again, absolutely no idea what that does. I'll have to do some testing when it actually is applied, but there was a change to that. If someone could tell me what this does in the comments, that'd be awesome, because I have no idea what this does. Our good old friend Zeku II Melee is also getting some more adjustments, even after the nerfs it received on October 28th. Now, while the unit hasn't been very impactful in low ranks and casuals, it has been the opposite in higher ranks. It's actually so it's receiving a lot more adjustment. First of all, the melee health is getting a slight nerf from 1,200 to 1,100. The Zeon's Rage ability is getting a small buff, causing it to grant an extra 100 armor, so going from 500 to 600 on activation. The Guard Tackle ability is also getting a cooldown nerf of 7 to 9 seconds, and Zeku II's Melee's G maneuver is getting a slight nerf, requiring an extra 500 activation points, bringing it from 8,000 to 8,500. Overall, this is not a huge change to Zeku II. I still think Zeku II will be pretty strong, especially in the higher ranks. However, I feel like we'll see his play rate drop pretty significantly now that Barbatos is back in the meta, because let's be honest, all the Barbatos players were playing Zeku II because Barbatos sucked, and now if Zeku II Melee gets nerfed too much, it's going to go back to playing Barbatos. So we'll see how this turns out. Again, I don't think it's going to be a big issue to this character in overall, but we'll see what happens in game. Alrighty, and last but certainly not least, we have the craziest buff we're ever going to see in Gundam Evolution, hands down. The universally deemed worst unit in Gundam Evolution, Mahiroo, is getting an insane buff to the primary fire, and I'm going to assume this is going to apply to the ultimate as well. Currently, the detection range for detonating the projectiles is currently at 20. It is getting increased to 180. I'm going to say that again. It's going from 20 to 180. The spammability of Mahiroo's grenades is going to be insane, and when they pop the ult, when you shoot like 5 of them, that is going to be ludicrous. Now, keep in mind that Mahiroo is the only other character in the game that can match Pale Rider's damage output, and now Mahiroo just got a massive buff. This character is going to explode in popularity. You are going to see Mahiroo all over the place. Like, if someone was throwing in a Gundam Evolution match, they'd play Mahiroo. Now playing Mahiroo is like a legitimate strategy. This character is going to be insane. I am very disappointed we're not seeing a change to the god-awful stun projectile cannon ability, because that UI and the way it works is just straight up broken. I covered that in my previous video of the tier list. I would love to see a change to that, but I don't even think that's going to matter at this point, because the change to the projectiles is so big. This character is going to be insane. So definitely, if you haven't unlocked Mahiroo already, highly recommend you unlock them, because Mahiroo is going to be like the best character of Season 2, hands down. Alrighty, and that finishes up the coverage of all the unit changes for Season 2 Mobius of Gundam Evolution. Now, again, all this stuff is subject to change. If there are any crazy changes, I will update the linked patch notes down in the pinned comment on this video for you guys. But I think this is going to be a really interesting season. It's going to be like a weird mix of like Beta Barbatos Terrorizer all over again, but then mixed in with Mahiroo just being an insane character now. It's definitely going to be a weird season, but I think it's going to be a good season. I'm looking forward to it. But let me know what you guys think of the patch notes down in the comments. Again, I'm interested to see everyone's thoughts, especially on the Mahiroo changes. That's going to be an interesting one. And again, if any Marasai mains know what the heck that changes, please let me know. I'd love to figure that out, because I still can't figure it out. But again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.